Welcome to 3DLANES number 26. This time I would like to talk about, this one's a little more off the cuff, but today I would like to talk about specifically watches and the value that we put on things specifically. Um, I was tempted to buy a watch recently, and this was a rookie mistake, or kind of like, I don't know if rookie is the best way to put it. Maybe, but also maybe confusing a relationship with somebody, with a vendor, like confusing friendship with business side of things. And two things: business is always business, obviously, but at the same time, you can be friends with somebody or you can be acquaintances with somebody, but that doesn't mean that the business model of the person that you're dealing with has to change. And in my scenario, I thought, I could have some flexibility in a deal that I was, uh, let's call it a deal that I was trying to do. I was just trying to buy a watch, but I thought, I could offer to give a deposit for the watch, and it would be fine, like let them hold it and then um, get it later. Because I was thinking, okay, I'll get this watch as a gift to myself for the MBA graduation, right? So I'll be getting it next year. So I will put a deposit there, could keep the watch, and it's like win-win for everybody. But not really, because the vendor, in this case, the watch is yeah, it is a limited edition, but at the same time, it's not like they have them on stock. They still have to order it, and just me putting a deposit, that means this vendor has to put the rest of the cash out of pocket. And what if I don't come through? Then they get stuck with the stock, right? So that's my assumption. I didn't go through with all the details. I just said, "Hey, can I give you a deposit and then you hold the watch until I graduate?" The person was like, "Nah, cannot do it. Sorry, but I'll be ready for you when next time you're basically you're willing to buy the watch outright." And within reason, right? I hold no grudges against the vendors, because again, at the end of the day, it's business. It's their business, their liabilities. They cannot be, just bending rules just because you're cool with somebody. Maybe not even friendship, bro. Like just because you're cool. No, no, no. That doesn't mean the business changes. Your business and personal things are two different um two separate fields, and you should keep them that way. And that's something that there's things like this that I'm learning a little more with studying, obviously, business administration. But there are some things that are very, very basic and very, very obvious, and nobody really, if there's nobody to tell you, then it's hard to see. That's something that I've come to figure out. But yeah, in this case, the watch that I was trying to buy, there's nothing really special, let's call it, with the movement, which is something that a lot of people are very, very picky with. Like the movement has to be like something crazy or really good or chronometer certified, blah blah blah. No, there was nothing like that with this watch. But I guess the craftsmanship on this one comes through how the dials and the shape of the case and all that stuff is made, because it's very innovative. But sometimes, a lot of times, we see something that's like, if I can get it, at least myself, if I can get it, today, and kind of like pay it off later, kind of like uh delay the payment of the item, then it's like, I don't feel the hit that much, so it's fine. But in this case, the vendor was like, when you're ready to buy it outright, it's I'll be ready for you. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so is this watch worth that much for me? Am I willing to sacrifice the price of what the watch is according to the market worth, according to the vendor worth? But yeah, put it in accounting terms. Am I willing to what defer the expense, right? Because I'll be paying before the fact, before receiving the item. Am I willing to, instead of usually accruing the transaction, because I usually pay it off later, and I'm used to that. But putting it in different terms, like in different perspective, am I willing to really pay the full amount for the watch? That's the question, and it brings me back to a subject that I've discussed maybe in a blog post before. What is really worth for you in an item? It could be a camera, it could be a car, it could be a watch. And in this case, I encounter that question with a watch myself. So it's like, am I do I really value the watch this much? Am I willing to put the money where my mouth is? And sometimes, even the finance might not be on point for you to make that purchase, to perform that transaction, to put all that money on something that it's not really a need. It's more like a luxury, something that is something just because you want it. It's not because you need it. It's not something that's gonna go in the fridge. It's gonna feed you throughout the week. A watch is something that it's luxury. It's not something that who needs a watch nowadays. We have the time on the phone, so we don't really need them to tell the time. It's an accessory. It's now it's called men's jewelry. I know it's also for women, but men don't usually wear a lot of jewelry. It's it's less common. Let's put it that way. But a watch makes it okay, kind of like to wear jewelry for guys. And um I'm I'm digressing here, but going back to the value of things. So on a watch, what do you value? Do you value the movement? Do you value the finishing of the case? Do you value the dial? Like there's some crazy people that do some crazy stuff with dials. Let's start with Grand Seiko, right? They do crazy stuff with their dials. And at the beginning, like a couple years ago, it was very very they were one of the brands that were like at the top of it. But to me, at least nowadays, it's more like, it's Grand Seiko. Yeah, the dials are cool. They're good. They're really good. But I don't know. I feel like it's maybe a little. We know their trend and we know what the things that they do. Nothing to downplay Grand Seiko because they're really great. I don't own one, by the way. But yeah, it's do you value that? Because Grand Seiko at the same time, it's the kind of like the full package, right? Like they, I'm not who to judge finishing on a case, but at least dial is there, right? The cases are good, nothing really crazy, but at least not that I know of. And the movement, it's they have so many great things. They have great quartz movements, great spring drive movements, great automatic movements, great manual movements. So you can really go wrong with a Grand Seiko. But there's some other brands. I don't know. Let's put an independent out there, independent brand. Um, that they buy a Selita movement, then they make their cases and their dials, and it's like, let's call it average, and it's like between the 1,000 2,000 dollar price point. Is that what you value? What do you value about it? Like sometimes, and for example, I don't want to say names of any brands. As you can tell, I'm trying to refrain myself to say any names of any brand because I don't want to put anybody in a bad spot without because there's no need, right? There's no need to put anybody on a bad spot because I don't want to create any confusion that I'm trying to say something bad about anybody because I'm not. But there's a lot of small brands that do this, right? And we have to take watches also as a kind of like as an art, you could say, because it's people interpretation of things, right? So, for example, let's Rolex. They have their GMT watches, right? They have let's say for example the Explorer. Uh, they also have the Explorer 2, and they have dive watch like the Submariner. So they created those categories, or all the watch brands fall in those categories, right? So everybody has their own interpretation of what is a GMT watch. The way Grand Seiko does a GMT watch is slightly different than what Rolex does, or a small brand like one watch that I do have. It's the Oken Oscar, the humble GMT. Yeah, it has some cues and hints of the Rolex uh, Explorer, but of both Explorers, Explorer 1 and Explorer 2, by the way. But they have put their own flavor in it, right? So Chase from Oak Oscar has put, some little hints here and there that, make the watch kind of like his own. And Christopher Ward is going to have something different, right? And for example, dive watches. Yeah, you could say that the sub is kind of like the standard of it. But you have Christopher Ward makes the super compressor, which when it came out like a few years ago, I fell in love with it because it was the complication, or the innovation of it. It was something that I hadn't seen, which is the not that I'm a diver, but it's cool just to say, oh, this watch does that, right? And it's cool to see that I watched a super compressor that actually is supposed to work. Not that I'm gonna test it, but it's supposed to, right? So those are cool things, cool value adds that every brand has. And a lot of times the brand and small brands, it's also the people, right? So you're a lot of times, and I'm going to go with the for the used watch market. A lot of times people say you buy the seller of the either vintage or used watches. You buy the seller, and it's true. And sometimes in small brands, I would argue that it's the same thing. You buy the people that created the brand, right? So if the people are cool, if you agree with what the brand stands for, then it makes sense to buy it, right? It makes sense to buy a watch. Um, but sometimes, like with big brands, it's not as, I don't know, it's not as easy for me. It has to be something like really really cool. And in this case, going back to my initial scenario, I was going for the innovation of materials used in the watch, not for the movement or anything else, or the design language. That was something that attracted me to it. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, am I gonna put this money down for this watch? Do I really want it? I slept on it. It's been a week, more than a week since the conversation that I had. And the more I see it, yeah, the first few days I was really tempted. I was like, I'll put this money down, and I don't care. It's gonna be my gift to myself for my birthday, whatever. But now I see it a week out, and it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I don't like the muted colors of the watch, even though it's cool, or it's something that has been done before by one of the people in the brand, And is it really that special? Arguments like that come into my head, and they kind of like eat away the either the desire or the want of having the watch. And it's interesting. I would ask the question, what do you value on a watch? What do you what's the first thing that you see? What attracts you to it? That's a good argument to ask and to have. And I think that can be, you can ask the same question for everything. Is it, are you going in to buy something maybe that's not a need but a want? Why are you going with that brand? Why are you buying that specific item? Is it something that you really, really wanted, or is it just within the few seconds that you saw it? You know, is it the FOMO? What is it? I don't know. This was my topic for today. I know I'm recording this one. This is probably the latest episode that I've recorded this whole time. This is being recorded on Saturday. It's 10:54 p.m. and I'm gonna leave it here because I need to go to sleep. Uh, the NBA is kicking my butt. It's a lot of work. Work's kicking my butt. Family time. I appreciate it, but it's also demanding. Trying to stay in shape, trying to work out. It's also being difficult lately. So hopefully next class will be better. But I'll keep you updated. This has been 3 Lanes. I'm Denny Lanes. Thank you. I'm your host, and I appreciate your time. See you next time.